Hey guys, um, today's teaching video is going to be about several different things. I'm going to throw a lot of stuff at you in this video today. So I'll probably give you extra videos, but there's three things that I want us to do today. And that is going to be identifying a real world problem and discuss solutions. And these are some of the key terms: national debt and income tax. And I'm going to explain to you what those are. But we're going to look at some of the problems that are about these two things and how to discuss solutions to those problems. Second thing we're going to do is identify and analyze how people and institutions relate to each other. So it's all about understanding relationships between people and different institutions. So these are the three people that we're going to look at today: Andrew Mellon, President Harding, and President Coolidge. These guys were really important in the 1920s. And government, of course, is an institution. And then the last thing that we'll do, and this will be probably in another video, this will be about interpreting data. So we're just going to look at a chart and just try to understand what that chart is saying. All right, so those are the three things that I want us to do. So let's just kind of get into it. All right. So the main person that we're going to look at is this guy named Andrew Mellon. And he was a very well-known man back in the 1920s. And he's gonna come up with a solution to a big problem that was facing America. So before we get into that, I gotta need to give you some background information. So we just got through with World War I, and whenever a country goes to war, you could probably imagine this, but fighting in a war costs a lot of money. You have to get soldiers to fight for your country. You'll have to pay them. You'll have to pay for resources like weapons, food, clothing, transportation, and all of that stuff. And that, to fight in a world war, you could probably imagine how much money that cost the United States of America. And because World War I cost so much money, it brought on something called a national debt. We've talked about this word debt before. Debt is kind of like the amount of money that you borrow and that you have to owe back, or the amount of money that you have to pay back. And I wrote the definition of it here. But the national debt is the amount of money a country's government borrows and needs to pay back. So in order to fight this World War I, America had to borrow a lot of money and also pay a lot of money. And so because of that, they'll have to pay that money back. And so, after 4 years of fighting, America's national debt was about 26 billion. And that is a lot of money, especially back in the 1920s. $26 billion back then would probably be in the hundreds of billions of dollars today. So that is the big problem that Andrew Mellon is facing, is that America has a big national debt, a big amount of money that they have borrowed, and now they need to find a way to pay back. So this is their problem. How does America solve? So Andrew Mellon's problem is this: how does America solve this national debt problem? So Andrew Mellon came up with a plan, and he was kind of the right guy to help solve this problem for a number of reasons. Andrew Mellon was a businessman and he was a banker, so he knew how money worked. He understood how to how to buy things, how to sell things, and he knew how much money that you needed to make all these things work. He was very well experienced, and he was a qualified person. That just means that he was the right guy for the job. And because of his experience and because he was the right guy, Andrew Mellon became the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury from 1921 to 1932. So he was important enough to kind of look out for America's money for about 11 years. Okay. So Andrew Mellon, once he recognizes this problem of a national debt, he decides to come up with a plan. Now, in his plan, he comes up with a number of things, but these are some of the most important. His first thing that he wanted to do is that he wanted to cut taxes, or another way of saying that is to lower taxes. I think we've talked about what taxes are before. So, like a tax is kind of like money that you have to pay the government from the money you earn. So, for example, if you earn $5,000 a year, you will have to pay some of that money, some of that $5,000 to the government. You know, the government gets to take some of the money you earn. A lot of people hate it. It is kind of annoying to me. But back in the 1920s, Andrew Mellon said, well, Americans are paying way too high of taxes. And so Andrew Mellon said, well, let's lower these taxes. And he also thought that Andrew Mellon also thought that the government was spending way too much money. Like I said before, government was spending a lot of money because of World War I. And so Andrew Mellon thought, well, you know what? Let's lower government spending. Government doesn't need to spend all that much money anymore. So let's reduce or lower the amount of spending. And spending, of course, is just, you go to a store and somebody says that the cost of something will be $5, so you spend $5 in order to buy it. That's what spending is. So for Andrew Mellon, so what does this mean? What does cutting taxes and cutting government spending mean for Andrew Mellon? Well, this is kind of what it means. If government can cut taxes, that means people like you and me, just regular people, we would have more money. If we don't have to pay the government a lot of money in taxes, well, guess what? We get to keep that money. That just means more money in our pockets. We get to keep that. We don't have to use it for taxes. We don't have to give it to the government. So if government cuts taxes, people could then have more money. So if people had more money, that means they could spend it on businesses. If you have more money, that gives you more opportunities to go to the store, buy food, buy groceries. If you had more money in your pocket, maybe you could save up for a new iPhone or a video game system, or maybe for adults they could buy a house, buy a car, all those things, or at least they could save up money for that. So if you have more money, you can spend it on businesses. Therefore, if more people spend it on businesses, then businesses can make more money. Businesses love to be able to have customers come into their store and spend money. If you worked for an Apple store, you would love it if more people came into your store and bought your stuff. So because of cutting taxes and cutting government spending, people have more money. They can go to their favorite stores and buy more stuff. And if that's true, then this national debt can be made smaller because the government doesn't have to borrow as much money. So that is Andrew Mellon's big plan. And I do kind of want to make a connection to today's. Our president is Donald Trump right now, and he talks a lot about stuff like this. People like Donald Trump and a lot of Republicans, which a lot of you may come from families who would call themselves Republicans, maybe. Um, but they would, a lot of people like Trump and the Republican Party, they would be in favor of cutting taxes. Why? Because that means you get to keep more of your money. I mean, who doesn't love to keep more of their money? I know I do. I love to keep money because I can use it for my own good. I can spend more of it. They would also be in favor. Republicans and people like Donald Trump would love to cut government spending. They think government doesn't need to spend the people's money on stuff that they think the country doesn't need. And people like Donald Trump and the Republicans also have a big problem with this. They want to make that national debt smaller. That's kind of a connection to today's time. A lot of these ideas are in our current Republican Party today. So I just wanted to kind of give that connection. All right, I'm going to stop the video right here, and I will pick it up with another video.